Hey, it's Garrett. Welcome back to Ephesians. This is chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. And this paragraph is split into really clear halves. And the first half describes humanity by default, humanity on its own, and the second half describes humanity with God. And so keep your eye on the absolute extremes between these two. So it says, you were dead. There's an extreme already. You were dead in the trespasses and sins in which you once walked. And you go, gosh, that sounds so extreme. I mean, he comes out swinging and says, hey, let's watch The Walking Dead, and you are the number one zombie. And you go, that feels like too much. I mean, maybe I wasn't dead. Maybe I was just, I don't know. Maybe I was just young. And Paul says, nope, you were dead. Or you go, maybe I was just immature when I made some of my past decisions. And Paul says, nope, you weren't just immature. You go, maybe I've definitely made some mistakes. And he says, no, you've actually done trespasses and sins, and you walked in them. And you go, well, that doesn't sound very fair. I don't feel like I asked for that. And he says, no, you didn't have to. All you had to do was follow the course of this world. All you had to do is get in the lazy river of life and follow humanity, which is under the influence of the enemies of God, the spirit that's now at work in the sons of disobedience. And you go, well, who are you name calling? And you go, well, all of us. We all lived in this state to one degree or another. And he says, in the passions of our flesh, carrying out the desires of the body and the mind. And we were by nature, remember this is humanity by default here, we were by nature children of wrath, deserving of punishment, like the rest of mankind. So this whole front section, this whole top half here, is about what humanity is apart from God. Now, before we go on, it's important to remember that God is free. When we say God is free, we mean he does not have to do anything in response to this. He can leave us exactly where we are. And it might help the rest of the paragraph land if we think about what it would be like if it actually was not there. What do we get from God in response to all this? Well, we don't know. What does God do in response to us following the course of this world? Well, we don't know. Will it be good for us or bad for us? Well, we don't know. So let's remember that God did not have to do what he did next, but he did anyway. So it says, but God. And these words mark such a turning point that that exact phrase has been put on everything from coffee mugs to Instagram bios to the human body as a tattoo, but God, because it's such a big deal that he decided to do something kind to us instead of something that vindicated himself. He chose to vindicate himself and welcome us. He says, but God, being rich in mercy. That's something you're not entitled to. We are not entitled to mercy. Mercy is a gift because of his great love. Why did he do it? He loves us. That's why. Why does he love us? He loves us because he loves us. That's why. It says, even when we were dead, even at that time, so before we'd ever thought of God, before we'd ever thought about changing, before we'd ever thought about anything, he made us alive together with Christ by grace. So grace is a word that's tied to mercy. Mercy is where we are forgiven a wrong, and grace is where we are given a right, the righteousness of Christ in our account. So the trespasses are taken out, and the righteousness of Christ is put in, and only because of grace we are saved, and we're raised up with him and seated with him in the heavenly places. This is really great language because just as someone can be dead but walking, Paul is saying, okay, you can also be living on earth and at the same time seated with Christ in the heavenly places, so that in the coming ages there is more to life than this one that we're living right now. In the coming ages, God might show the immeasurable riches. You go, how much is this worth? It's immeasurable. Show the immeasurable riches of his grace and kindness toward us in Christ Jesus. And when we see the extremes of these paragraphs, we marvel at how deep our depravity goes, but we also marvel at how high the grace of God takes us. And I'll close with these two quotes from Timothy Keller, a longtime pastor here in New York City. He says, the gospel at the same time humbles us into the dust and exalts us into the heavens. And he also says, you are more wicked. How's this for a good summary of this paragraph? You are more wicked than ever dared believe, yet you are more loved in Jesus Christ than you ever dared hope. This is the very nature of the gospel, that we are more wicked than we ever dared believe, but we're more loved anyway than we ever dared hope. See you next time.